till I came here.
Blade Runner Black Lotus was so sick. Anime, CGI, Blade Runner. It was a complete package. Adult Swim, Crunchyroll. It had everything in it. It had the music, the atmosphere, really good characters, good voice cast. And I feel like it just came out of nowhere. Where did it even come from? I saw that it was out and I was really surprised. It's like, dude, Blade Runner, hello. Yes, please. I love the original two. Harrison Ford was so good. The first one is... I like them both equally. The first one and the 2049, even though they're both very... Well, not only are the years in the movie set apart quite a bit, but the, they're both obviously... You know, one came out how long ago? The other one came out not that long ago. Anyways, that's... This particular series on HBO Max was so good. I didn't know what to expect going in. I was like, it was really cool to see and it surprised me. But I thought about it and I was like, how is this gonna work? Because all that I could think about was the original movies, live action completely. There might be like other adaptations out there floating somewhere, but I haven't seen anything like it. So this whole, you know, how are they gonna tie in the movies with basically the source material? What are they doing? This was so unique and so left field. The fact that they somehow pulled off the anime / CGI was incredible. I don't know how they did it, but they did. But I mean, half of the people that worked on this were in fact legitimately straight up Japanese.
この作品ではドラマのシーンも含めて、頭から最後までね、モーションキャプチャーを使って、役者さんにできるだけワンショットってワンテイクを長めにワンシーン丸。
So that alone made me feel very comfortable because I know that they were gonna do this right, even though it's definitely targeted toward a Western audience, like a lot of things are. They did it justice. I was surprised because they took something that's only really been, at least in my opinion, the movies are very Western-like, other than all the Asian kanji and katakana writing everywhere, which is great. There's always that big heavy Asian theme, like that's just how it is. Our overlords. But yeah, I mean, half the people that worked on this were also straight up like, you know, fully English and everything. But they had to do that too with the English voice cast. The atmosphere was perfect. They did everything right. They matched up all the imagery, all the vehicles, the guns, the looks, the buildings, the streets, the just overall vibe, and that's what Blade Runner to me really is all about. It's like this, you know, however many hour-long experience that you can sit down and really get immersed in. Something about the future is so fascinating. Cyberpunk, Ghost in the Shell. I mean, the list goes on. it's just all good stuff. I don't something about it is so, because it's not the past, it's not the present, it's something that will always be out there, and it could happen in our lifetime, it could happen in 100 years, you never really know. But I mean, it's gonna happen. That is really what I do picture the future looking like. And it's not just because the movies and stuff. The movies are here. The pictures, everything that represents what the future, what people imagine the future looking like. That's the direction it's always been heading in for who knows how long. You only notice it more and more every day. Especially with technology. That's why I think it's good to get to know technology as best as you can, just in case, because you just never really know. You know, maybe that is exactly what is going to happen. Maybe not down to the last detail, obviously, like the design of everything, but like the branding, the commercializing, the industrial, it keeps moving forward. It keeps, like, it's not getting any, I wouldn't say the grass is getting any greener. And it's a far shot, but I mean, I don't really see it turning out any other way. I just don't. So whenever we're able to get material like this, it just really stirs up the imagination. Because you're like, what if I was here living in this time era? What if I was a part of this world that is somewhat close to how it is today, but it's so extreme, it's so like, it's so dangerous, it's so dark. It's what we've all kind of been, I feel like, wanting subconsciously inside, is like this utopia of like, hey, we're all together, but also that's because there's not much out there either. Like, now we have this community, but how do we get along? How do we play nice with each other? How do we settle our differences? How do we go out at night without worrying about what's gonna happen, how it's gonna happen, when it's gonna happen? And this is the best representation of what that would be like, and brought to life. Not only in live action form, like the most realistic kind of way that our lives can turn out to be at some point in time. Could be the next generation, could be the generation after that. Who knows? But then what's nice about Black Lotus is that we get to see this in a whole nother light. We get to see, like, okay, if this is our future, there's some pretty cool lights, there's some positives. Everything looks cool, everything's very advanced, everything's very technology friendly. I mean, if you live in the future like that, you know, as each generation, each bloodline gets, you know, further and further down the road, you can already see it happening. We're gonna know everything there is about computers, about TVs, screens. It's gonna be so simple at some point where everything is kind of maybe still complicated as far as like how much technology there is still out there, and the fact that a lot of it is going to be outdated but still useful in some way, scraps. How can we communicate? How can we get out of this place that we're in otherwise? Virtual reality, all of that stuff. I could go on and on about this entire subject, to be honest, because it's such a big thing. It's primitive, because you think of where we're at today and it's like, well, this stuff hasn't been around forever. I mean, it has. A lot of basic inventions have been around for years and years and years. However, just as far as internet goes, just as far as basic modern technology as a whole is still very young, and I feel like we still haven't hit that sweet spot, obviously, of, you know, we're still using very old systems, we're still going off of grids that have been around for systems, designs that have been around for almost too long. And I think there is going to be an entire revamp of how everything works, operating systems, because you know, people, our human minds, we need simple, simple, simple. And these things are going to be broken down to such a fine point that anyone's going to be able to use this stuff even more friendlier than today. Like, even people a lot today still really, there's always going to be, you know, half of everyone knows kind of what the heck's going on around them as far as everything that keeps happening. And then half of a lot of people are still kind of, you know, stuck. Which is fine. I think that's kind of how it should be. I mean, everything's balanced out for a reason. But it's gonna get to a point where, I mean, no matter what age you are, no matter how old you are, who you are, where you came from, we're all gonna have this general understanding of, like, it's gonna, there's not really gonna be much of a choice. In order to do anything, in order to live in the future, you have to know at least super basic stuff. How to open a door using a button, you know? Assuming there's a button to use. Or it could be just a screen, it could be... Like, I'm waiting for phones to eventually become just a legitimate hologram of some sort where you're not even really pressing anything. Like, Blade Runner brings that to the table, but even, you know, you'd think, what's even beyond Blade Runner? You know, whereas even the most farthest out adaptation of where we're expecting life to kind of end up at, where is that going to go? How is that going to be? And these are things that, you know, we don't have to think too much about, because obviously these are things that are going to be super far down the line. Like, anytime soon, I don't know. I don't think so. In the next 100 years, we'll see. We'll see. You know, people have been predicting this kind of future for a long time now, and we're still here today, and it's not quite where, you know, you'd see it in movies like, ooh, 2001, or what, 2022 now. We're always going to be kind of a little behind. But that's the thing, though, is that people have been so anxious and so wanting to get to this whatever point that there is where, in fact, Blade Runner would lie at. And I hate to say it, but it's not going to happen for a while. I really do. I just think technology is moving way too slow. It's very suppressed. We're not quite getting to where I think we could be today, but that's not entirely fair, because obviously, you know, I'm not out there, like, I'm no engineer, I'm no scientist, I'm no inventor. But you'd think, like, okay, well, shit, I mean, until, like, aliens come and visit, I don't see how anything's gonna change that much. I think it will, sure. But the thing is, we've been using the same... Where do phones and computers come from? The ground, really. It's all rubber and rocks and glass and sand and dust and just basic earth materials that you can only do so much with. And until someone starts revolutionizing this on a commercial, industrial sort of way, I don't see how... It's just very unlikely. But, you know, that's the thing, though, too, is that life kind of is surprising that way, is that it could take this one person, it could take this one company, it could take a million people to come up with some sort of way to magically to get us to this point. Blade Runner is a long shot, let alone what happens after that. But we'll see. That's just how those are some, not everything I'd have to say on the future and the overall timeline of Blade Runner. But that's a general summary of where I see a lot of things going. I mean, I don't remember the exact release date, but I'm pretty sure the first Blade Runner, there's been stuff like this since like the 80s, 90s? Comic books, manga, anime especially. Not so much cartoons, give or take. Blade Runner 1, There's... Yeah, a lot of, what do you call it? Possibility... Potential. There's a lot of potential. You can even look at stuff from the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, even to now. Everything it's weird because everything looks the same as far as, overall production quality. But obviously the detail is so much better today. That's how they were able to pull Black Lotus off. But, one thing they did really well here is they kept everything so the same. There's always going to be that same, there's lights everywhere, everything's dark. But it's always going to be interpreted in different ways, different artwork, different... It could be the CGI anime hybrid, it could be live action, it could be a cartoon, it could be video games. It's always going to be looked at in a different way, but overall, the image will always stay the same. And that's what's cool, is that it's only looking better, it's only getting better, and the more Blade Runner, Cyberpunk content that we get, it's just gonna keep looking cooler, which is great because that's kind of the basis of the material itself, is that what's our potential like? How advanced can a human society get? And that's really cool. The music was spot on. The atmosphere was good. The crew is awesome. But yeah, they nailed the music. And it was different this time around here because they had that very instrumental, deep, heavy, synthesized, synthwave feel that we've always kind of gotten. Whether it is Cyberpunk, whether the video game Cyberpunk 2077, whether it is Ghost in the Shell, whether it is Blade Runner. But what was interesting here is that they took that, they put it in there. It's about in half of the show, really. But the other half, I was actually pretty surprised. It's like a legitimate soundtrack. They have really good songs on here. The intro song is the same, which is really good in of its own. But one thing they did was they did an outro song for each episode. There was 13 episodes, and they were like 25 minutes long each or something like that. But they were such good quality. Like, they packed so much in there. And one thing they really thought a lot about was the music. They were like, hey, we're not just gonna reboot, rebrand Blade Runner. We're going to give the fans what they want, but we're gonna add some spice. So they did a really cool soundtrack. A electronic heavy, obviously, songs, but they do a lot of different artists. And I was surprised how good these songs were.
I can feel you now.
It's weird because you look at this overall. I don't know if I can call it anime or not. I really don't know, honestly. That is kind of what it's geared towards. But this show was a lot better than I was expecting, because I went in and I think the first episode, because it's CGI, your eyes really have to get used to what you're looking at, and it may not be like anything you've really seen before, and maybe it's similar, but not obviously exactly like it is here. Everything always has its very own formula and system that's in place, and that's what keeps it apart from other things out there that other people have made. Everyone's going to use different programs to make all this. Everyone's going to use different artwork. No two people draw exactly the same. No two people have these exact same sort of ideas that would be able to be implemented here. And I'm really glad that how it turned out, because once I kind of got used to the animation, I got into it. It was hard to at first for me, I will admit. However, once you do get used to it, it's pretty amazing how easy it is to just sit down and binge watch it. The voices, the English cast was very, very good. Because this isn't a... The only other really good traditional CGI I can think of is from Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy, the Spirits Within. There's been other Final Fantasies before, but that's the only one I've really seen. And it's probably the best one, to be honest. But the CGI there, for example, was so good. Obviously, we're talking Japan again. And I kind of wish... A part of me wishes they would have done something like that here. Because it can be done so well that you're just going to be doing the license that much more justice. But what fascinated me as an anime fan is that they were like, well, you know, we could do this 1,000 different ways, sure. When you're starting up a project, or when something like this is in line to happen, it can go so many different ways that you have to choose something. So that's the thing, they found a way to include the anime in there, which by that standard, they were like, okay, well, we really need a good English voice cast. We need, you know, familiar names that are out there. Because English voices have to do, whether something was originally Japanese or not, regardless, the artwork is always going to be Japanese, basically. So you really, you know, I can imagine it's a tough job for English voice cast, because they gotta step up. They're like, hey, we gotta get on these guys' level, and we gotta deliver these lines. We have to make it crystal clear, immersive, unique, special. Because it's our way of expressing our love towards something that we care a lot about. A lot of people love anime, all over the world. I can't see life being the same without it, to be honest. So whenever there's, especially English voice actors, they go hard. They take it very seriously, because they don't really have much of a choice. You gotta make our Japanese brethren proud. I totally understand. So there was the main character.
My name is Jessica Hennick, and I play Elle in Blade Runner Black Lotus.
Need to borrow this.
And I really liked her. I don't know a lot of other stuff that she did, but I think these things like this happen for a reason. A lot of big introductions to a star's role is going to be in a very big film series, something of that sort. So obviously she's probably been in other stuff. However, to land the star role is really impressive because that's kind of the thing that can jumpstart a lot of people's careers, is by being lucky and having these connections and kind of being just the right stuff for this right role, and it lands, it hits, it delivers. It's perfect. Another voice that surprised me was Wes Bentley.
I'm Wes Bentley, and I'm playing Neander Wallace in Blade Runner and Black Lotus. I gave the people manna when heaven would not oblige.
Is a very good bad guy. He's got the face, he's got the voice, he's got the vibe. Some people are just meant to play villains. Sorry. It's true, and it's not a bad thing at all. I like it. But for him to play Neander Wallace Jr. was perfect because he nailed that role so well. He took this guy. Obviously, these actors are gonna know what these characters look like, where they've been before, and do their own spin-off, but they're generally gonna keep that same rhythm of what they perceive this character to be like in every single way possible. Because when you're only working with your voice, obviously you're making up for a lot of not being on camera and not being filmed, so you're gonna have to like really push that out. He did a great job at what he did. Another good voice was William Lee. And when I first heard him...
My name is William Lee, and I play the character of Jay. Memories are overrated. If you've lost yours, quit while you're ahead.
He sounded very familiar. I was like, where have I heard this guy's voice before? He has such a familiar... I listen to enough and watch enough English anime dubbed that, you know, I'm very familiar with some... If I can hear it, I'll believe it kind of thing. Like, hey, this is familiar to me. I like this. Makes me feel comfortable and cozy that I'm watching something brand new. But I can kind of have a little bit more of an understanding of it because it comes from something that I've also seen before as well. So his voice was just really nice to hear throughout. The most comfortable. I mean, he's the not the lead character, but the lead supportive character. So he did a fantastic job. It was just so nice to hear his soothing voice throughout the entire show, because the show in and of itself was so comfortable that it makes you really feel at home hearing a voice like that and watching all this and the music. It all mixes together so well. So he was definitely my favorite part of the show, to be fair. There was also Brian Cox, Stephen Root, and Samira Wiley.
My name is Samira Wiley, and I have the honor of playing Officer Davis in Blade Runner.
Couldn't cut it in the Blade Runner program, could you, Davis?
In this town, no one retires replicants anymore. There just aren't any replicants left.
When I knew that Samira played in here, it's like, I have seen this chick on many different stuff before. She has such a very familiar face. And the role that she played, the cop, was just perfect. Everyone's roles were so good. The casting was amazing. I can't get enough of it. I know it's pretty typical, but it was my favorite part of the show, easily. without characters and the voices and the faces and the whole package, these shows wouldn't be possible. The CGI was great. They look like they worked really hard. Once again, I don't know the budget of these type of things, but everything was there. These Japanese people are so smart and so good at what they do that they are able to make such clean, such perfect looking CGI, flawless, no mistakes, no errors, no misplacements, no nothing. Everything is just so concise and sharp and detailed. And it worked out so well here. Everything was just pure eye candy the entire time. You're getting eye candy, ear candy, everything. Your senses will go on fire. The motion capture was also really, really good. With the motion capture, the CGI, the anime, the voices, the music, the atmosphere, it just keeps coming together more and more. The motion capture was so fluid. It really shocked me. It was so real. I was like, I could not tell what I was looking at half the time. And that's half the beauty of this entire production, is that you don't know what's real and what's not. Like, obviously when you look at this, you're like, hey, this isn't like a real face. But it's so distinctive and so possible that it worked out so well. Their movements, the combat, the martial arts, the action, it was so good. So good. It was almost too good. I was wondering, like, there's no way. I went in assuming there was no motion capture at all. I mean, obviously it was a thought, sure, but it wasn't like, because when you think CGI, you're like, oh, these guys did this like entirely in their computer and, you know, cut, right? But the motion capture was just great. I was like, dude, everyone was so flexible and so, every punch, every gunfight, everything was just, it was very acrobatic, very athletic, very, you know, who they chose to motion capture this, perfect. It worked out very, very well. It's good. Yeah, Blade Runner Black Lotus Season 1. Like I said, there's about 13 episodes. It was a really nice experience. If you like Blade Runner at all, it's definitely worth a watch. And I think for people who maybe haven't experienced Blade Runner at all before, I mean, everyone's a different age. People keep being born, people keep getting older. You know, we're all gonna be in like a different kind of boat. Or maybe you just simply don't know about Blade Runner at all. Which, I mean, for the longest time, when I first heard of Blade Runner, I was like, is this like a movie about like ice skating or something? Like Blade ice skates and like running across ice? It sounded like the weirdest movie I've ever heard of. And then I finally watched it and finally kind of understood what it was more about, and I was like, whoa, future, cyberpunk, sci-fi, fantasy. Yeah, I'm all there. Hello, let's go. Let's do this. Let's do it. And ever since then, I haven't looked back. I've loved Blade Runner ever since I first watched it. Ever since I kind of came across it. I don't remember when or where I found it, but it was good. It's really good. Those are my thoughts, impressions of basically everything, the atmosphere, the music, the characters, the crew, the CGI. the motion capture, everything was great. I don't have anything bad to say about it. The more I watched it, the more I actually really ended up liking it. Because like I said, the first episode was hard to watch, but a part of me wanted to really stick through it because I was like, this is something special. You know, this isn't... Things like this don't just come out for nothing. Like, it might throw people off because you're like, well... You know, you start to ask too many questions. Who worked on it? Why did it happen? Where did it come from? What was the reason? What was the purpose? Maybe sometimes there just doesn't have to be a reason or a purpose or anything like that. It's just to simply keep these franchises alive, keep people happy, keep people entertained, keep people moving on to the next day because of the future. It's so important to look forward to each and every day. And this is one of those shows that will do that for you because you can take it and interpret it on your own. Like, oh sure, this seems like such a dark, grim future, but what light is there going to be within the dark? What balance am I going to be able to do on my part if I was a part of this futuristic society, or even today? How can I look forward to the future? And this is one of those things where, you know, you can either look at it as, you know, this may not be a future for you, but depending on your actions and what you can do, you can still live in a place like this no matter where you are, what you're doing, how dark it is, how good, bad, and just do what you can and make the best out of it. And that's the message I get from Blade Runner, is that, you know, there might be an entire world out there, but ultimately, I have some say, I have some control, and that's fine. It's good enough for me. That's my Blade Runner impression and opinion and overall easy review, and it was fun. I had a blast. Hopefully there's more. We'll see. Any Blade Runner I can get my hands on, I'm sold.